Real talk for the bold, bruised, and built to last. Welcome to the Built This Way podcast with Patricia Mullen.
And we're back. Welcome again. Thank you for listening again. And this time is going to be even much more special because, as I promised, I had a super special guest of someone that knew a lot about the topic that we spoke on the last time, or at least I did. And it was, starting things and not necessarily knowing how or wanting to start things and just not being able to get in mode. Maybe it was a business that you're wanting to get started, or maybe it's a new project, or, maybe you're just wanting to quit your job and start a new career. There's so many different things in, life just because you start off doing something, or you are someone, or your career was this thing, doesn't mean that that's who we have to be. Right. And I'm recapping this for two reasons. One, I'm going to introduce my very, very good friend, Erik Milligan, and he is a professional in that. Erik Milligan Coaching is located in the Huntsville, Alabama area, and I'll let him tell you a bit about that. I'm also going to call him out a little bit because he did not listen to episode 2, so he didn't know what he was really coming on today until he read the pre-notes. And honestly, I'm really glad that happened because now we get to have a genuine conversation, and it gets to come from you. Welcome, Erik.
Hey. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here and looking forward to just what we're going to talk about. Just, and what value I can add.
You can always add value because, you're so many different things. Why don't you spend a minute and just tell everybody a little about yourself, because I want to go into how we met after that. It's awesome.
So, currently I'm an engineer and a minister and a coach. So a little bit of everything, and a new dad, matter of fact, 19-month-old little boy. That's a long story. We'll leave for another time, but
you can actually,
anyway,
this is probably the perfect time on that at this moment, but yeah, perfect episode.
But yeah, started out here in Alabama. Well, actually started in San Antonio, Texas. My dad was in the Army and got stationed at Fort Sam Houston when he got back, and that's where I was born. We lived there for about a year and then moved back to Alabama. And my family's been in Alabama since before it was a state. So long time roots here, but grew up in very rural area. We didn't have much, so you made do with what you had. So a lot of lessons to be learned there. Ultimately, I learned consistency and persistence, and just because it's hard doesn't mean we don't do it. Those kind of things that really helped me to overcome the obstacles that came with learning how to play the piano, learning how to be a lifeguard, eventually going to engineering school and getting my degree in engineering. Ultimately to now being a coach and a minister. Those things just don't get handed to you. And if they are handed to you, they're not worth anything, right? Only things in life that are worth anything are things that are hard to get, things that you have to work for.
My mom said that. She said, anything that anyone has given you is just as easy taken away from you.
Exactly.
And I that's always stuck with me. And maybe that's part of why I work really hard. I don't know. I want to talk about the ministry thing too, because irony, you haven't listened. I mean, you listened to the first episode, so you know the nature. And by the way, we know each other. I didn't just pick out an engineer / minister / coach to fit my specific needs in my show, which actually really fit my specific needs in the show. Number one, I'm married to an engineer.
Right.
Look at that. Number two, was literally just talking about this topic, but yeah, have you heard me talk? And people will go, I'm a sinner, and I am, but I'm human too, right? And made no qualms about that. The first episode I listened to, and I was like, I kind of cringed a little bit because I swore a little bit more than I shouldn't have, and I referenced someone. It was you in that. You probably like, oh Jesus, Patricia, what are you thinking? And not that you would take his name in vain like that, like I would. But I knew that today I'm going to try a little bit harder to not have such a potty mouth out of respect. But we've had conversations probably dozens and dozens of times, and you've never made me feel uncomfortable, or that I couldn't be who I was authentically, that I couldn't say the things that I needed to say, that I actually really needed to watch my mouth at all, to be honest with you, because you're that type of guy. And I wanted to go into a little bit more about how we met also, because so that's the irony part, right? Like, why would Patricia, as her first guest ever, have her minister friend on? What? That's so funny, right? But no, I mean, it's so fitting because it's, a part of who I am and how I got here and all those things. So I moved to Alabama, and I kind of mentioned this in the last episode, and you can re-listen to that if you want to know the whole story. And my first week here, my family and I are on the side of the road on this mountaintop looking over the city of Huntsville. It was just beautiful. It was just like this cutout rock. And this stranger walks up to us and tells us the story about where we were standing, and then offers his wife to take a photo. And I'm like, I'm the only person bold enough that I've ever met, no, I've never met anybody like you, like that's like me, that would do that. Let's be friends. And not even a year later, you're at my house, at my new home that I purchased since and remodeled. Your wife has taken our family photo. Flash forward 5 or 6 years later, and we are still friends.
Yeah.
And we've helped each other through the years in just various ways. And it's been a beautiful thing. And so I know for a fact that God sent you to me, right? And I know for a fact that God sent me to you, because I think that at this time in our lives, we really needed each other.
Yeah.
And we were both at this stagnant point of our lives where we were going through some stuff. And maybe you needed to see some things in me that I needed to teach you and kick you in the butt with, and vice versa. And that happened in so many different ways. And you had mentioned your adoption, right? And me through different surgeries and different things through my business, you through your business. Let's talk about that for a second. What does Erik Milligan coaching do? After this cast, how can you, what is it that you do? How am I what is it that we can do?
So for me, I guess the best way to describe it is just to reflect on how did I get here? What brought this about is I began to look at my just overall situation, and I see these coaches online, and that's something that's just dear to my heart. The personal development, self-improvement. If you're able to see some of the books on my shelf, you'll see. So that's something that's always been important to me, of, how do I become better? How do I do this better? Getting a little bit better each day, that kind of mentality. And in doing that, I've learned a lot of things, but just because you've learned things doesn't mean you know things. Let me put it that way. You can hear things all day long, but until you begin to apply them, it's just knowledge, right? Yep. So I began trying to apply these things as I was learning them. And in the process of doing that, both on my job as an engineer and in the ministry, I was able to often apply some of these things that I had learned separately into those to help people. And, of course, that was not kind of paid situation of a coaching, but just on the job as an engineer, helping other engineers or helping even other people that maybe weren't engineers, but just kind of coaching them, really. Helping them with mindset, helping them with confidence, helping them with just perspective. How are you looking at this? Why are you looking at it that way? Why don't you see it this way?
Perspective,
those kind of things helped them to overcome obstacles and be better in themselves. And then in the ministry, the same kind of thing. And so as my family got older and, kids get more expensive, they got higher demands. And of course, now I got a new one. I was looking at all these coaches, the famous guys, the big name guys, and how, just make tons of money. And not that I'm trying to get rich or anything. That's not the point. You can do things and there are certain outcomes that go with it, right? If you love playing football, you're going to play it really well. And if you love it so much, it is your life, you end up playing in the NFL and they pay you lots of money to do it. It's kind of a win-win. I'm kind of hoping that works out for me eventually, that I get to do something I love to do, helping people with these things. And at the same time, I get paid to do it. And that's how I kind of jumped the fence to become a coach, understanding that I know I can help people. I know I can.
You are helping people. So
question is,
one of the things that you need to know, and if you ever go to Erik's social media, this will be very apparent. He's the most consistent person on social media in my feeds. Actually, Erik posts videos every single day. And so, talk about endurance, right? Because the thing is that not every post hits thousands of people. And what we have to do sometimes is shift and change up what we're doing. But when you look at the people that are succeeding, the people that are they've got not just 100 videos out there, they've got thousands. I connected with a famous person yesterday and had an actual conversation on somebody from TLC. Wow. She's on 90 Day Fiancé. I just made a comment And then we went back and forth and we went back and forth, and she's in the same business as me. And I didn't think about that when we commented. It was about something with her life. She moved to another country, didn't want to, did it for her marriage and family. Turned out, it's probably going to be the best thing that's ever happened to her. Right now in the season, it's not. And I said that to her. I've been through this, and, it ended up being the best thing. You're not going to probably see it now, and I didn't, and it took me a couple of years to get there, but now I'm seeing it was the best thing for me and my family and my marriage. And she responded, she's like, can we connect on Instagram? And so I was like, Dave, I'm messaging back and forth with this woman, like, it's really her, like, this is so crazy. And then I looked at her stuff, and on TV, she's very emotional, incredibly insecure. The post that she was doing it showed that very thing. She has tens and thousands of followers, and she's been doing this. And I'm like, man, it is her just continuance to do, and her will to continue going. Because my mom, I talked to my mom, and she's like, she's not even like the most like personality. I'm like, I don't care. She's a person, and she just like needed to, like, a connection. And for whatever reason, I felt to connect with her. And now we're connecting. Manon Berman, I think is Manon. That's her name, because she's French. She went back to France. But like, it was just a human thing to do. And it gave me more encouragement. And that was actually just this morning. I looked at her page and I was like, wow, here's this person that is doubting herself. And she's got tens of thousands of followers and things. And the thing that she's had is that she didn't stop. She didn't quit. She just keeps going. And she's trying all sorts of different things. And it's starting to work for her. My page pales compared to that. And, it's just minimal. and as a marketing person that's not on national television, that's okay. I'm not gauging my success by the amount of likes that my pages have or that my feeds have anymore. I did that for a while. It ate me up. And I thought of you when I did that challenge the other day of free the posts,
right?
Free the feeds or whatever, free the drafts. Yeah. And I did that because we have these conversations all the time. I talk about how I'm always in my head, and this has got to be your clients too. And how do you get them out of it? And you're one of those people that I talk to, and then I go, well, if he can do it and he's feel like I can do it too.
Right.
But even the most successful of people have the same problems, have the same insecurities, have the same fears, have the same challenges. Like, they're going through the same stuff. And it's just clicking to me now, whether I have 600 followers or 6,000 followers, I'm still doing what I want to do with my life. I'm making the money that I want to make. That's not everybody. So that is a blessing. Yeah. Because the messages are finding the right people.
Right.
And, I had a guy, I've actually had two, but one in particular really pissed me off. Because he told me he followed me for 2 years before he did anything. I didn't get a like or a share or a comment or nothing, just voyeuristically like following on my feed. And he did eventually hire me, and I was very grateful for it. But I'm like, man, really? I didn't know that you were out there this whole time in the universe. Thank God, right? Great client. Didn't know that it was making an effect. There is another company, a bakery, great guy. And whenever I think, and I don't post, I think of him too, because then because he's someone that actually will reach out and actually need your posts. They're helpful. Mm-hmm. So Erik, I'm telling you the same thing. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't know. And not everybody gives us the gift of a like or a share.
Right.
Because, and if that's what you need out of it, then you got to change up what you're doing to get those things, stand on your head, be more creative, go outside, do some backflips, whatever. But they are eventually reaching the people that they need to reach. Yeah. What do you think?
I think you have to have faith that that's the truth. As you said, if you're only going to proceed when you get external affirmation, that external confirmation that you have value, that you're doing anything worth anything, then you're going to quit, because other people are not beholden to you to provide you that. There's no contract anywhere that says they have to give you that. And so if you lock up your future, your happiness, your satisfaction, your joy, basing it on external affirmation, or verification, validation, external validation, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. If you're basing it on external validation, then you're just always going to be disappointed. You're always going to be left waiting. Word. You've got to be able to figure out how to find that internal validation that says, I'm doing the things I know I need to do, that if I were successful, these are the things that I would be doing. I would be posting on a regular basis. I'd providing content with value that helps people. I would be doing these things and trust that eventually that's going to produce the outcome that you expect. When will it happen? That's the question. And you don't know You hear so many people talk about, I did the same thing for 2 years, and then that one post went viral, and it's all been.
You honestly never know what the heck it's going to be. I had my husband put together an Amazon cabinet for me, and that's like the only thing that's ever gone viral. And I don't even call it viral in terms of viral, but it's the most like of all videos. And it's a man putting together a video or putting together a thing on a video. That's all. And all I said was hire you an engineer, because he did it faster than the instructions said for the most part. And that was it. And I'm like, I've worked so hard on some things. I've had videos where I've worked so hard and like have rethought them and re-recorded them. And then, and I was behind, in the front of the bookcase, and my hair's all straight, and I'm, and then I have ones where I'm in like a t-shirt, and because of either the t-shirt or whatever it is, or I'm just like, I just happen to do it really quickly, or I'm sweating and I'm walking outside, and people like that. And people, that one tends to take off. And honestly, you just don't know. And the unfair thing is that you never know what it is that people are going to like, which is why you always have to test and try different things. Sometimes the same thing don't work anymore. The thing that I spent thousands of dollars even learning a couple years ago, I'm changing in the last year or so because I don't really feel like those things are working anymore. I feel like we need to change that up now. Mm-hmm. And it's because of algorithms and how people learn, and people get sick of stuff. They get sick of seeing the same stuff over and over and over again. Don't you?
Right.
Yep. I do. And I want to see something new. I want to learn something new. I want to be entertained. And you have to learn to do that. And as a marketer, it is time or money. And if you don't want to spend years and 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 years posting to get that magical nugget, then you got to spend some dinge every once in a while. And I'm not saying that's every once in a while, consistently not giving up after a couple months. And sometimes it's the ad, or it could be the place, or it could be just the whatever, because you just never know. But they're literally, if someone tells you there's a perfectly math science to it, and this is how we do it, and I was like, no. The big companies figured it out, and they spend so much money, and they do it in advance, and they stay with their plan no matter what happens, that it looks like they got it on point because they've got all this time and money and to do the production and actually make it look good and be relevant and timely and things, because they got their shit together. And then the ones that are the little guys have to keep up on their own, or if they're smart, they hire someone like me, right? And then I'm the one that goes crazy, and I'm keeping it up with them so they can focus on their job. But it's an ever-changing thing, and it's really unfair, but it's a constant thing. So I'm not saying that, now technically go and do backflips and stand on your head and do all those other things, disclaimer.
Yeah.
But changing up what you're doing and where you are and how you're saying those things and who you're saying those things to may not be a terrible idea.
Right.
Because the person that you're talking to might not be in that place. Maybe they're not in the bubble that you're in. Maybe, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that happens with me too, even with ads and stuff for my own business page. I'm like, I got to scrap this because I need to reset whatever they think it is that my business needs, which sometimes is not the case.
Right. You were talking earlier about, spending so much time and effort on something that you don't get any results from. It's painful because you did put so much time and effort in. So basically you have taken a piece of you and put into it, right? Because you spent so much time and thought on it. It's now an extension of you. And so when it's not received, we want to take that personal. And we want to say, well, you're rejecting me. No, they just didn't connect with that content for whatever reason. Well, maybe the algorithm sabotaged you and didn't send it to enough people. Or maybe it just hit them at the wrong time of day and it just didn't click, You might submit the same exact video 2 months from now and it goes haywire, So you just never know. It's just different. You just have to make the decision. And I think that's key. You have to make the decision. I'm going to do this. Because if you're just dabbling in it, then that's what you're dabbling. You're just dabbling. You're going to see what happens. Okay, well, that's great. This is what's happening. Are you happy with that? Well, if you're not, then you're going to quit. So you have to make a decision. If I'm going to be a coach, then I have to be all in. I'm going to be a coach. And if nothing happens for the first 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, I'm still going to be a coach because I made that decision. I'm going to be a coach. And that's kind of where I'm at. Even now, sitting here knowing that I can help more people if I had more people to help. But, you got to get in front of people. You got to get that visibility. You got to get the connections. And so that's where the work comes in now.
Well, not everybody wants to keep throwing things at a wall forever either, right?
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong also with changing up and doing something else. Because maybe the way that you're doing it or that thing or whatever, or the timing or, I almost gave up on this podcast and I had 2 decisions. Add more dollars and time into it and effort and go back to a painful thing that I thought was a failure in the beginning It was an embarrassment to me and several people in my head, you being one of them, telling you 2 years ago I was going to start a podcast and it not starting. And then people asking me about it. Hey, when are we going to do this thing? I'm like, oh, I'm such a fraud because it didn't happen. And the decision was, should I get off the pot? And I could have said, I can sell it and throw this stuff on Facebook Marketplace and move it out of my life and never think about it again. And just, and some people do that with careers. Maybe you're trying so hard to get promoted. And no matter what you do or what you change or your reviews or whatever that is, it's just not going to happen. And it's scary for people, especially in their 50s, 60s, to do a different job.
Yeah.
Unless you started off doing one thing and then you went to another thing and you went to another thing. I'm only stuck in marketing because I got this tattoo on my shoulder. Now I feel like it's a failure if I stop doing this company, But, I started in a restaurant. I actually started in a TV electronics. Then I thought I was going to be in the military and I was like, that was a failure. So that was like embarrassing. Then I worked for a building service company and I was a manager there. And then I left there because I hated it. And then I went into radio. I did that for a decade at different companies because it was my identity. So I had to go from company to company to company. Hated it each time, not the job, but the places and the corporate. Then I went into staffing, Chamber of Commerce stuff. Here I am. Politics before that. I've had 10 different identities. I'd be a psychopath, with all these personalities, if you think about it, But if
Another
you're afraid
civil.
of changing what you do and re-identifying, it's hard.
Yeah.
And each time people look at you or expect that, you're going to be that other person or you're going to serve in that way. And you don't want to let people down.
I think that's an important point, just to relate it to an everyday thing in everybody's life. And anybody can relate to this. You buy something and you use it and you really enjoy it. Over time, it wears out, it fades out. It kind of loses its ability to do what you bought it for. Sometimes you just throw it in the garbage, but sometimes you repurpose it. And now the reason you bought it was a totally different reason, but now you're using it to do something else. And it works perfectly fine for that. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of examples, like old undershirts make great dust rags when you're cleaning the house.
That's true.
So just simple things like that. You just repurpose it. Now you put that on a personal level. You say, well, I only have value if I'm doing this one thing. No, that's not true. You can be repurposed to do other things, but you have to shift your mentality. You can't do that other thing the way you did this thing. It took one set of thinking to get here, but it's going to take a different set of thinking to do this other thing.
You can do it after while you're reading the last one.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to it's like doing the monkey bars. You can't go to the next one unless you let go of the last one, right?
Yeah, not without injuring yourself anyway. Yeah, that was an excellent point. And just because you change who you are doesn't mean that who you were before also isn't valuable. And the experiences that you had or the job that you had, whether it's going into a new business or it's starting your own business for that matter, because I know that you work with a lot of people and that's what their desire is. A lot of people, entrepreneurs, started because they hated their jobs. And most of it didn't come from the job or the career itself. It usually comes from some sort of leader role, some manager that just completely made their lives miserable in some sort of way and pushed them to the point of the fact that they're going to go off and risk their dream over that cliff. And I had mentioned in my first episode, hopefully you got a spouse or someone in your life that can help support you get there, right?
Yeah.
Because starting a business with nothing is super, super hard to do and pay your bills and do all the things. It takes a lot of what you were saying, perspective and mindset and confidence and a plan, an execution of that plan, right? And so that would be why someone would want to work with you, correct? With your coaching company. Yeah. So, just recently when we were talking about, you and, I get the ability to tap into you every once in a while and help you with your business. And then you help me with some different things. And we just talk them out. And I put a challenge on my Facebook and my Instagram, basically saying, release the drafts, because I was doing a similar thing, not necessarily changing the business, but the brand itself and me in the brand has been changing. I have been really just, hesitant to put out certain content and things, just because various reasons getting in my head, being busy, just that confidence thing, and just unsure of all the other whatever. But when we talked about people needed those posts and they needed the value. And then at the end of the day, I put a lot of work into creating that content for myself, and not just posts, but videos and things. And one of the reasons was because I didn't like the way that I look or felt when I created a lot of those videos. I had some health challenges over the last 12 months or so. And I think I felt like it was showing on me. And I think it was, if you were to look at them, you'd go, no, I don't know what she's talking about. It was because I know how I felt at the time.
But you knew.
And the messages are great. But when I look at them, I don't like how I feel or look at it. Like, look at, it's not so stupid. I know, because the messages are good.
Well, it's not stupid.
So,
it's reality, though.
It is. It is. So I am ripping the Band-Aid and I am setting them free. And if people look at me and they're like, oh, she looks like she's like 20-something pounds lighter. I am actually now. But please still watch those messages. They're going to still be awesome. And the thing is that I had to get out of my mindset of, just because that is a different brand, different person, in different messaging. I'm same person and all that, but things have changed a little bit in how I offer my services and how I speak about them in a little bit. Doesn't mean that the things that I created before, workshops, email tools, those other things aren't still valuable, because just because I evolved in my business doesn't mean that other people still starting out in theirs that are followers can't serve or be served by those tools. So I'm doing a little bit of both and jumping off a ledge with it. So I wanted to share that with you, because you helped me kind of create that little baby.
Good deal.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think a key thing to think about there, and encouragement for everybody listening, we're often our own worst critic. And so we produce something and we go, nope, nobody's seeing that. It's not good enough. Or I sound so stupid. I hate the way I sound, or I look so ugly, or I, blah, blah, whatever it is. When in reality, if we will be honest with ourselves, human nature is, I don't want you perfectly made up. I don't want to see you in perfect studio lighting. I don't want to see you never miss a word. I don't want to see that. You can't help me if you don't know how to deal with real life. So give me real life. And if you've been to hell and back, now you can talk to me. Because I'm going through hell. I need somebody that's been there and come back to tell me, how do I get through it?
You've been there and back. I know that for a fact. Just watching you go through, and we got to do this again. Please spend some time with me again and come back.
Oh,
because I want to talk about that and how you and your wife, if you're willing to, in that story, because that is a crazy story.
It is.
That was a crazy story before the beautiful ending of the story, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, talk about, being, not adversarial. What is the word that I'm looking for right now? Or adversity, or just when you endurance and
challenged,
not want to give up, and challenge and everything. I mean, there were points where I felt like you and your wife were looking at, your faith were being challenged. And that was hard for me as your friend, where I'm like, but you're like my faith. Like Powell's like, what? Like, what's up with that? And I'm like, you can't give up, but you didn't. And it is the most beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of both of you.
Thank
you.
It
is so inspiring. And you are the perfect person to help other people through that, because like, you got your child. That is so much bigger than a business or anything else. And it wasn't just like, let me go order one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in that, at the same time, you also started your business, and so did she. And you both work 2 full-time jobs. You both work 2 full-time jobs. So if anybody just heard that, I just said that. That's 4 careers in this family. All that's a lot. So they spend most of their time serving other people. So there's truly nobody else out there to help you. That's part of also why I think it's a beautiful thing that we are able to be together too, because I'm not necessarily, like I said, I'm not fake about things, but I'm a very firm believer in God and a Christian woman and a proud American. And I don't stumble when it comes to my values one bit.
Right.
And you kind of take me as you leave me. You get me, you know what I mean? Like it is what it is. And after this podcast and going to my social media and all the other things, you have a really good idea who you're getting before you want to call me or work with me. Because if you don't like me, don't call.
Right.
Sort of thing. And I can tell you, like, you are like the best person to help people with what those things are. Because I've just being able to walk alongside you have just been helped just from being there and being able to help from you, being able to use your counsel.
Appreciate that.
So yeah, I think that if you're looking to start a business or change careers, or maybe it's start a project or an organization. It doesn't have to be that specific thing. Maybe it's trying to come up with what your dream is. Maybe you're just stuck, in a thing, and you don't know where you want to go, where you want to be, and you just need some coaching for life in general. How do we get a hold of you?
Website's erikmilligancoaching.com. You can find me on YouTube also under Erik Milligan Coaching. I've got some stuff on LinkedIn. You can find my name, Erik Milligan. Most social media, I've got a little something on there somewhere. Here recently, I've mostly been posting Facebook and YouTube, a little bit on LinkedIn. Just check it out. Reach out. You'll find me.
Yeah, there is no lack of Erik Milligan messages out there. You just have to search Erik Milligan Coaching, and it's ERIK.
Correct.
Milligan.
Because the K is for kings, whereas C is for commoners.
That's bougie. Maybe you're good. Well, commoners are cool. So, you could have a name like Mullen that's spelled Mullen, that people say Mullen when they could just say Mullen, and they spell Mullen, Mullen. But I'm like, you just. Anywho, well, it was super fun hanging out with you today.
Oh yeah,
thank you.
Enjoyed it
so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, let's do it.
Take care, bud.